I'm gonna start by talking about scripts and end by talking about people. Also, you will learn from a supervillain on how to view other people a little bit more charitably. Recently, I read a script that really didn't work for me. It was structurally off, it had no central focus, the characters were super flat, and man, it just had awful dialogue. Don't worry, Zach, I'm not talking about your script. Still have to read that one, actually. It had some good ideas, it had some good moments, but overall, I could not see how anyone could turn that into a watchable movie. Then I remembered a story from one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Sherlock. This show, at least the first 2 seasons, has 5 stars across the board. Great characters, great story, great plot, great writing. I can't even think of small parts that are casted poorly, but one of my favorite characters to watch in that show is Andrew Scott's Moriarty.
Jim Moriarty. Hi.
He's just so twisted and psychotic and yet somehow playful and very soft-voiced. One of my favorite scenes is when he reveals himself as Moriarty at the pool. The things he says, how he says them, the timing of his mood swings, I can't quit geeking out about it. But unless you've obsessed over this scene like I have, you probably haven't noticed it is really easy to act out these lines poorly. If you don't stop prying, Sherlock, I'll burn you.
People have died.
That's what people do. Not quite the same effect. It's kind of a miracle that Andrew Scott got to read these lines at all because they were not intended to be in the final script. The makers of the show had to audition the part of Moriarty before they had any lines written for the character. So they quickly jotted down some crappy lines so that the actors would have something to read. Guess which lines they wrote?
No, don't be obvious.
According to Scott, when he auditioned for the part and he really got into his vision of what Moriarty would be, there was a visible look of fear on the people who were watching's faces. The people making the casting decision were like, okay, he gets the part and we are keeping these lines. If Scott had not come up with this portrayal of a character and auditioned the way that he did, I'm not sure what they would have come up with, but frankly, I don't care. If I haven't made it clear already, I love this scene. And I'm so grateful that somebody came up with this concept of Moriarty and was able to work with really crappy lines to make this happen. Time to switch gears. There are people who have a really hard time expressing themselves in the way that they really want to come off. Because of that, people may think of them as boring and don't give them the time of day that they really deserve. I understand that we may not have the time to get to know everybody who we think is boring or a jerk or just kind of weird, but we could be missing out on some true diamonds in the rough if we don't do that for at least a few people in our lives.
Well, I'd better be off.
And there you have it, lessons from Moriarty on how you can be a more kindly, charitable person. That's all I got, and I will see you next week. Mwah!